Welcome everybody. Today we have an electrifying video for you. We're here to do an in-depth review on the latest bike from Stomp, the EBox 2.0. So get ready for more information than you actually need. Feast your eyes on the 2.0 EBox, the big brother of the 1.6. Let's dive straight into the details. The front and rear axles are 11 millimeters like the Honda and Kawasaki's. They do not have dust seals over the bearings, but the bearings are sealed, so we'll see how that holds up over time. With a 37-inch wheelbase, it's about 5 inches shorter than a Honda or the Kawasaki's, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the handling department. It does have a 25H chain. The 25H chain is bigger than a bicycle chain, but smaller than a 420. I think that could be a good upgrade later. It has a 10, that's right, a 10 sprocket up front and a 70 in the rear. So that little motor is definitely spinning to get this back wheel going. The the Chinese tires that are on here seem to be great in a straight line. Their forward bite and their traction straight line when you are braking seem to be really good. But as you get to the edge of the tire and you get mid-corner, the confidence inspiringness goes away that you get from some of the higher end tires right in the mid-corner. As this just falls off, could use a little bit more side bite. The brakes are actually pretty good. They're easy to modulate. It's kind of like what you'd call like a mountain bike disc hydraulic setup. I really like them. I did have to adjust the levers out a little bit for my hand size, and I had to adjust the spacing on the front brake as it was off to one side. Not a big deal. You have to do that with a lot of bikes you buy anyway. So make sure you spend the time to set the brakes up. They do really good. They do have these throttle cuts. And on the front, which is the front, these are moto set up. So your rear is on this side, your front is over here. And on the front, I did not like the cutout. I was unable to drag the front brake to try to get these tires to bite mid-corner, and every time you touch the brakes, it would cut out. One thing I did like was I think I'm going to leave this cutout on this side because I could use it almost like a clutch. Coming into a corner, especially a burned corner, I could hold the throttle wide open, drag this as I go in. It gives me a little bit of, we'll call it engine braking, but then as soon as I let out, the power kicks right back on and just pull through the corner. So I did like that. I think I'll test it with this side hooked up, but this side's definitely going away. All the hardware on here is 8.8. Y'all know how I feel about that. That's technically just grade 5. It's not the best hardware. This bike is built to a budget, and you do see it and stuff like that, hardware and whatnot. As bolts come out, they'll probably get replaced by me by an actual like grade 10, whatever, 10.5 or whatever they call the metric, which is basically a grade 8. I will be doing that. Another cool thing it has is right underneath here, it has a switch dial indicator, whatever you want to call it, like a rheostat is a proper term for it. Anyways, there's two of them, one for response and one for speed. Really like that aspect because you can turn this bike way down and put a small kid or a beginner rider on this bike, let them learn it, let them get comfortable with the braking and the acceleration, and then turn it up, not just in notches, but you can really dial it up. Even with the response though, turned all the way down, I've done it, ridden it both ways multiple times, it still comes on like a light switch. It still goes, I mean, it goes aggressively, just not as hard when you do turn this down. I don't think that the response dial makes that big a difference. The speed dial really does, and I like that aspect because I've got a chance to use it. I let my nephew ride it around. Me and him talked about it. I turned it down. About 3 or 4 laps, he was wide open. We sped it up, and he got to have a lot of fun. So it's really good for people who are learning to ride or don't have a lot of experience on little bikes. So let's see if I can get my wife. Maybe I should do that. Put the old lady on this thing. The forks are a fluid-filled fork. They have adjusters on the top, blue and red, where you see like on a big bike. They both have R's on top. I haven't got a chance to tear them apart. Something I will do in a future video is take them apart. Let's find out what's in there. The adjusters, I have them cranked all the way down. I've had them cranked all the way out. They seem to make a difference. It's really hard to pinpoint where the difference is. definitely going to need to be some more testing there. The rear shock is a nitrogen filled. It has sag adjustment, so you can adjust preload and sag on it. It does not have any dampen, that's the right word. Doesn't have any dampen adjustments on it. You can't do rebound or compression. That would be a great place for an upgrade, and with the style and the length of the shock, there's going to be plenty of them out there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Maybe pulling these shocks apart and see if we can put some actual compression and rebound adjustments in there, or find out what these things are actually turning. It's got a 60 volt, 18 amp hour battery, which is actually pretty decent. But it's turning a 2,000 watt little motor down here and lugging around a 185 pound fat boy. So the runtime does get hurt by that. I think the battery is something that we will see an upgrade. I've already kind of been looking. We're gonna take this off, pull it apart, maybe at the same time we do the forks, and let's see what we can upgrade inside here to get a little bit longer runtime. I have spent a little time riding this thing. It is something completely different than riding a normal pit bike, which I ride a lot of pit bikes. Not bad, it's just completely different. I do have some upgrades for comfort, for a little bit better rider triangle. So please stay tuned, subscribe to see how we're really gonna change how this bike feels and get it to feel a lot closer to what a regular pit bike feels, and actually maybe more fun than a regular pit bike. After I got some time on the bike, rode it a few times, charged it up, made sure everything was working good, I did a 15-minute moto. My little track, it's kind of like a pit bike track. We've got some wood sections, uphills, downhills, so it's a lot of work. I never even thought about it on the regular pit bikes, but for this, it was a lot of work. In that 15-minute moto, I started out, I had 99% on the battery. I rode it. When I got back, I had 54%. So it dropped that much in that 15-minute of hard, almost the whole time on full throttle. It did start about 5 minutes left, so about 10 minutes into the 15-minute moto, I started noticing some battery sag. Started noticing coming out of the corners, especially coming out of the corners where you're climbing a hill, started noticing some substantial, can't even talk today. I'm just gonna put the word right here, substantial. Hey, we got it together. So substantial battery sag. So it seemed to not have the pull right off the bottom. It did pick up as soon as I got the spinning, but that battery sag was pretty substantial. I really think that that's kind of the Achilles heel of these electric bikes. My gas pit bikes, they run until you run them out of gas, and they run the same. So it is different. I think we can fix that, like I said, with an upgrade, but there is a lot of factors into going into riding this. If you had a kid on it, probably would never notice it. But if you're riding it like me as a pit bike, it's gonna be a huge, huge thing when you're riding with your buddies and you stab it out of a corner and you cannot pull them like you were before. While I was riding, some of the things I did notice is the foot pegs are above the axle line. And what that does is it raises your feet up above that line and makes the bike have some different handling than what we're used to on our moto bikes. So that's something that would definitely help. I think I'm gonna try to get those down. I got some upgrades coming that hopefully you'll really like. So the front end does need some more dampening, and I say that because as you're coming into a corner, front end's loaded up, you're on the brakes. As soon as you let off the brakes back onto the throttle, it seems to want to kick out. And a lot of times that little kick out that you feel there is because there's not enough rebound dampening. So it's either that, or when you're loading up all the front, it's trying to knife. It's kind of hard to tell, especially with these low bars, is you can't ride the way you want to ride. For somebody like me, I've done my testing on it as stock, as all this, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give a review of how you get it out of the box. I am going to lower these fork tubes, slide them down in the clamps. The bike can definitely handle it with this short wheelbase. Shouldn't hurt its turning too much. That may give you the confidence and the ability to come out of the corner and that not slide. It also could just be these terrible tires. These are absolutely terrible tires. These will be going. I'm hoping to wear them down really fast. I'm hoping that because, they got a lot of knob. They just have no side bites. So that may be another soon upgrade there. The last strange quirk about this bike is the rear end. I don't know if it's the sidewalls are too soft, if the wheel's flexing, bearing, axle, maybe even the swing arm is flexing. It could be because the foot peg is above the axle line so much, but it kind of wallers, feels kind of like squashy in the rear end. The shock, I have not figured out exactly what's causing it just yet. Have some testing to do on that, but it doesn't have, coming out of corners, coming into rough stuff, the rear end just seems to waller a lot. It could just be the flex of the bike. I don't know yet. We'll swap these tires out. We'll do something to see if we can't remedy that and find out what's causing it. It's not a game changer. It's not like a deal breaker. It's just different. Like a different feeling than what I'm used to out of a big bike or other pit bikes. I mean, you look at this. This is a lot of swing arm. The motor is on the swing arm. There's a lot going on back here. So we definitely need to figure out what's up with that. I bought this bike to test it out. I paid my hard-earned cash for this bike. Nobody sent me this because I wanted to give an honest review. This is something that I think that either can be fixed simply with just a better tire, which we discussed, they're bad. Or it could be something where we need to build a brace on this swing arm. I don't think it's that big. It just kind of feels like you have a flat. Kind of look back, tire's good, you know, but just has that, I may start to get a flat feeling. So it's probably in the tires. Another thing, like I said earlier, this thing has a lot of torque. I've already started to spin the tube a little bit. So rim lock will be going in this probably in the next day or so, if I have one or if I swing by the shop and grab one. But other than that, it's good. And there you have it, folks. The EBox 2.0. It's a force to be reckoned with. It combines a thrilling bottom end, fun size. It's a quiet package to expand dirt bike to places that you couldn't before. Backyards and neighborhoods, stuff like that. That'd be a really good place to ride. And as long as your adventure is less than an hour, you can do it on this.